Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven and I am a future first year dental student. So one of the coolest things about starting this YouTube channel has been growing a bit of a following and starting to see people enjoying the videos, watching the videos, and even commenting on the videos. And recently, actually just a few days ago, I got a comment from Samim and he was asking if I can make a video about the personal statement. And one of the main reasons that I made this YouTube channel was to help people out and to tell my story so that I could help people out that are going through the same things that I went through just in this past year. So once he asked for the personal statement video, I really couldn't wait any longer. I needed to go ahead and make that video. And so here we are today. I'm gonna talk about how you can write the perfect personal statement for dental school. And if you're applying to med school, I'm not sure how that process works in the application, so this is sort of geared towards dental, but a lot of the principles of writing that I'm gonna talk about in this video can sort of bleed over and apply into med as well. So what is the personal statement and why is it important? Well, the personal statement is sort of, I like to look at it as the third most important thing, or one of the things in that third category. To committees, I think the first and most important thing is your DAT score, followed by your GPA, which if you want to see me talk about GPA, I have a video on that exactly. And then that third category is your personal experiences and your life basically. And one of the first things that they will look at is your personal statement. If you have the numbers, if you have a solid DAT and a solid GPA, they're gonna go ahead and put your application in a pile, and then they're gonna read your personal statement. That's one of the first things that they're gonna see. So yes, it's very important, and it's sort of a good way for committees to judge who you are as a person, what your writing skills are like, and why exactly you are drawn to dentistry specifically. The personal statement is a personal essay. You'll write it and post it onto your application, which is found in the ADEA ADSAS portal, which if you're applying, you're familiar with this. I can also make a video on that process if anybody is interested, let me know. But it's a 4,500 character essay, and that includes spaces, meaning every character and space counts towards that number. So you are pretty limited as to what you can do. And I think if you write this in a single space format, it comes out to about a page and like a little bit of change at the end on the second page. So it's not a whole lot that you get to write about your entire story with dentistry. And the question that they give you, the only thing they give you is please explain why you want to pursue a career in dentistry. So that's a pretty vague question, and they don't really give you a whole lot to go off of, which can be difficult if you kind of don't really have a direction. And so with that being said, the first thing that I want to urge you all to do is to brainstorm and have a plan before you even remotely sit down to write. What I think is important in this process is actually to set yourself apart in a positive manner. Now, I talked about setting yourself apart a little bit when I made a video about the fact that I was an English major applying to dental school. If you want to see that video, it's right here. And in that video, I talked a lot about setting yourself apart and sort of appearing different in a positive way. And that was really, for me, what I focused on with the personal statement. You have to remember that committees are gonna read sometimes thousands of these, or at least skim over sometimes thousands of them. And if you write a very stereotypical, I wanna be a dentist because I'm interested in helping people and that's kind of it, you're not gonna stand out at all. And that certainly can be effective, but in my opinion, I think this is a chance for you to set yourself apart and show why you specifically are going to make a good dentist, because your skills and your experiences are going to basically justify that. Yeah, so basically, how are you different than the other person that's applying and has the same stats as you? What makes you different specifically? When I answered this question and when I wrote my personal statement, I focused on my English major and my emphasis on communication. I talked about how important it is to be a good, solid, ethical communicator in the world of dentistry, where the reality of it is that every single day you are having to communicate on a personal level with human beings, and that is a skill that takes time to develop, and one that I think I am personally pretty strong at. So that was sort of my approach. I went with English and communication. I talked about how my English major and my writing courses and all of these things sort of have culminated to to me and shown me that I think that aspect of my dental career will be solid. But this is not the approach that you have to take. It's just sort of one that I suggest. You can definitely focus on some of the classic things that people focus on in the personal statement. Ultimately, they're asking you, for what reason are you drawn to dentistry? And there are a lot of possibilities for that. Some examples are the healthcare industry in general, manual dexterity, having private practice, maybe a love for STEM and learning the human body. And then also a common one is combining surgical practices and art, which truly, I think if you look at it, dentistry is an art form in a lot of ways. So those are some things that a lot of people may typically focus on when they write the personal statement. I just wanted to approach it in a different manner and focus on something that I thought set me apart from the average applicant. But ultimately, your main objectives should be to very effectively and truthfully explain why dentistry is important to you and why you're picking dentistry over literally any other profession. And if you can do this in a unique manner, I think it's really good for you. So the next major step in the personal statement is to actually make an outline of what you're going to write. And if you've had English classes in the past and you've done any writing, your teacher likely told you that writing an outline before you sit down to write is a very good idea and it will help you greatly. And I know that a lot of times when we're in school and we're doing simple things like writing quick papers, we don't want to sit down and make an outline because it's time consuming, it can be tedious, but ultimately making an outline really helps you because it keeps you sort of on track as you go down the road of writing. And the way I like to break down the personal statement is it should have three main components. The first component is a concise and effective opening paragraph. And in this opening paragraph, you should outline your thesis. And your thesis is basically the answer to that question, what draws you to dentistry, basically. So after your opening paragraph, the next thing you're gonna wanna include is one or two body paragraphs that give substance to your thesis. You're going to basically contextualize it. You're going to give evidence for why your thesis makes sense and why you chose to focus on this topic specifically when discussing dentistry and why it's important to you. The last part of this outline and the structure of your paper is a, once again, concise but effective conclusion paragraph. And this conclusion paragraph should be optimistic and inspiring. You are excited about being a dentist. You're excited about being accepted into dental school. And a good way to convey that excitement is to write, like I said, an optimistic and inspired or inspiring conclusion paragraph. I talked about how excited I was to enter the dental field and how excited I was to be accepted and all of these things. And it's a good way to leave the reader of your personal statement in a state of mind that this student really wants to be a dentist and they are truly inspired and excited to do so. So the third step, the third main thing is the actual writing process. That's when you're gonna sit down on your computer and write out this paper, or maybe I guess you might write it out by hand. Some people like to do that. And my first piece of advice here is to write your personal statement in Word or whatever word processor you use. And then later, once you're finished with it completely, you'll go ahead and copy and paste it into the AdsAss portal. And the reason for that is just because it's easier to write on Word than it is that tiny little box that they give you on the website. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Also, Word has basic things like spell and grammar check, and you can just have an easier time writing. The most difficult part of the writing process for me was the character count, and I really struggled with this. I guess maybe because I'm an English major and I like to write and I did it quite a bit. When I sat down to write the personal statement, I truly went over the character count by a crazy amount very quickly. And not everyone's gonna have this problem of writing too much. Some people might have the problem of writing too little. But the way I saw it, there's a ton of different avenues that you could go down when you're writing this paper, and it was easy for me to sort of get sidetracked and to start talking about something else and to ramble on and just lose that structure that I was talking about earlier. So the way to combat this is to first make an outline, like I said before, but also I would suggest writing out a draft and not necessarily worrying about character count as much, and basically including all the things that you think are necessary at first. And then once you have this draft, you can go back in and work to cut down the verbosity of the paper. And this is sentence level and even word level. You're gonna go in and make sure every sentence is entirely necessary for the paper, or every word is entirely necessary. Sometimes we can fall pretty deeply into adjective noun phrases where we'll sort of string words out and include way too many. And this is fine if you're writing an epic poem or a huge book, but for a 4,500 character count paper, you want to stick to basically the basics and the necessary words and sentences. So cut down on verbosity and you will be in good shape. The final step of writing a rock solid and perfect personal statement is proofreading. Now, everyone who writes this would assume that proofreading is at least somewhat important, but it's actually very, very important. And a lot of the principles that I'm just about to talk about are things that we all get caught up on when we write. So my first recommendation for proofreading is to use something like Grammarly, which is an online tool that helps you with grammar and spelling. And I don't think this is entirely necessary. If you have a pretty good grasp of grammar and spelling, you probably won't have to worry about this too much. But if you struggle with those things, definitely look at the online version of Grammarly or investing even in the paid version for a little bit. But a better alternative to that is to send your personal statement to an English professor. Now, hear me out. A lot of you are STEM people and you probably only took like 1 or 2 English classes in college. So you may not have an English professor that is close to you that is willing to read such a personal thing like your personal statement for dental school. But if you have a teacher who's important to you and that you trust, it is imperative that you send them your personal statement before you submit it to the application. And I think that your trust for them is very important, but I also think that you should consider their wordcraft abilities and just their writing ability. If they're a science teacher or a pre-dental advisor specifically, that's great. They are probably at least somewhat familiar with these types of papers. And also something that you can check is to see if they're published. Publishing and writing for publishing is a very specific style of writing and you have to be very analytical in your writing. So if they are published, they're probably pretty reliable in checking your personal statement. But you want people that you trust and that have your best interest in mind to read this personal statement and to give you constructive criticism. Welcome in that constructive criticism. Tell them, please help me with this and give me your honest opinion. Don't just be nice to me. Sending it to somebody that you trust is going to really help you with this proofreading process. Personally, I sent mine to 2 of my English professors who really went through it, combed through it, and helped me with everything down to the phrasing. So some of the larger structures that I was using in my sentences, they helped me sort of knock those down. And ultimately, by helping me with my wordcraft, they were able to allow me to kind of inject a little bit more of the dental content into the personal statement because I had freed up some space in the character count. And also something that you can do to proofread is to write your paper, have it all finished, step away from it for some time and basically come back to it at a later date with fresh eyes. If you've ever done this, you probably know what I'm talking about. Sometimes seeing your paper for the first time in a while, you catch things that you wouldn't have otherwise done. So yeah, that can be sort of the last cool way to proofread this paper, but it's very, very important, so consider doing it. And now, quickly before I finished, I wanted to outline a few don't do's, so to speak. So here we go, a quick list of don't do's on your personal statement. Do not cheat. That's simple, but don't cheat. Don't have someone else write this. Don't use someone else's information. Don't lie about things that you did if you didn't do them. It's just in your best interest to be completely truthful and honest. Everyone goes through this process. Everyone has to write this, and not everyone is perfect. So don't cheat. Don't outsource the paper. I promise you, you will be fine if you approach this honestly and you get it done on your own. Don't make any excuses or arrogant/overly confident statements. If you got a bad grade in a class, don't use the personal statement as a time to make an excuse. I was sick for a long time. I was unhappy where I was living. These things are, while they may be valid, they're not really gonna help you in the personal statement. You can address things that you did poorly on in the personal statement, but a lot of times, the way I like to think about it is to take responsibility as opposed to making excuses. And then arrogance or overconfidence, everyone has accolades, everyone has done cool things in college, and it really reflects poorly on you if you spend a lot of time talking about how great you are. This is a time to highlight your successes in college, but you want to do it in sort of a humble way that presents you as a humble and honest person as opposed to an overly confident one. Don't write like a romantic poet. Don't use overly flowery phrases or words. This is a time to show your writing ability, but it is not a time to show that you could write an epic poem in the romantic period. Just stick to the important basic things that make your writing solid and stay away from flowery, crazy vocab and all that sort of stuff. And the last don't do is don't get too wrapped up in the personal statement. At the beginning of this video, I talked about how important it is, but it's not the only thing that matters. Don't let this personal statement ruin your life for a few weeks. You will be able to write it and finish it and do really well on it, I promise. Just don't let it ruin your life because it can be stressful, especially if you don't write all that much. But I promise it is still somewhat of a lower priority in the list of things. And so really, if you do all the things that I talked about in this video, you should be just fine. And guys, just like that, that's sort of my thoughts on the personal statement. It is sort of a stressful thing to do, and it is an arduous task in many ways. But with these tips, and if you follow these tips, I really think that you will write a perfect, rock solid personal statement. Be honest, be truthful, be optimistic, be inspired, and tell the committee why you are gonna make a great dentist. Guys, if you're new here, my name is Steven. I will be starting dental school this coming fall, so a lot of cool things are to come in the future with me and my channel. And if you're interested in these things, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. That's a good way for you to show me that you're watching and that you want to see more videos. I have tons of ideas and tons of things that I'm going to be filming soon, and so I wish I had more time. It's sort of a mixture of time and ideas. I'm trying to find that good balance. But also, if you're interested in just a little bit more content in general, I have an Instagram now. It's steven.p.ray.dentistry. And on there, I'm posting a few things that are sort of behind the scenes stuff and just a little bit more insights into my life. Because ultimately, it takes me about 10 to 15 minutes to post a picture on Instagram, and it takes a couple of days to make a video. So I'm working on the workflow, but that's a good way to support the channel and check out more things that I'm doing. But yeah, guys, like the video if you enjoyed it, and good luck on your personal statement writing. You're going to do a great job, I promise you. And yeah, stay tuned for the next video. A lot to come very shortly. Have a good day.